Welcome back. This is your last talk of the day. I know, I know, it's been such a great day. But we're so happy to have Candice Brathwaite with us. Hi, Candice.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course. So it's funny because we know each other, but we don't really know each other, and it's the first time we can actually have a proper conversation. So I'm really excited about that. Candice, I'm going to do a quick intro. And then it's money, 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 because we want to know everything about you and your books. So you're an author, a journalist, podcaster, speaker, and presenter. Of course, you're a successful author in both fiction and non-fiction. I've read your book. Your first book, I'm Not Your Baby Mother, was looking at the inequalities of Black motherhood, Sunday Times bestseller. And we also should talk about your amazing podcast, Closet Confessions, so you get, full packed room, having amazing conversations. I wanted to have you here because I feel you continue to have very important dialogues, challenging norms, promoting positive change in diversity and representation, and you're such a big advocate. And I think today, having you talk about financial independence, talk about money, and we're having a conversation about, what do you want to do in life? What is success for you? Hopefully we can touch base on all these subjects.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with a very difficult question. I'm going to ask you how do you personally define wealth? We've been talking about money all day, but what is wealth for you?
That's not even a hard one for me anymore. Wealth to me is the capacity to say no. I've had to say yes to so many things I don't want to do just to keep the lights on. Or even if you're not keeping the lights on in a financial sense, keeping the lights on in a societal sense or in a networking sense. Oh, yeah, I'll go to that. You're doing this through gritted teeth. Wealth to me now is like, no, yes, no. And the more I get to say no, the more wealthier I feel. So very few people know this, I'm a massive grime music fan. Woo! And recently, 3 of my favorite UK rappers, Gets, Kano and Wretch32 have a new song out called Mount Rushmore. And in there, Kano says something along the lines of, made enough money so I can comfortably decline. And for me, I'm like, that is what wealth is. I was even writing my next book where I admitted that for so long, I really thought I wanted to be a billionaire with a B. Not a millionaire, that wasn't going to cut it. I had to be a billionaire. And when I I'm getting into the habit of looking at the root of intention or the root of desire. And I only said billionaire with a B because I came up so poor that in my mind, I had to be at the complete opposite end of that to be wealthy. And as trying to manifest anything would have it, I don't know why. And guys, this is not a flex because it's truly just weird. I've now met enough billionaires to be like, you good. It's okay, like I've had to peek behind the veil, and this isn't to say they're all terrible people, but the decisions they have to make, the stress on their head, I was like, no, that I want wealth with a side of peace. And being a billionaire doesn't seem so peaceful anymore.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I mean, we'll take the money.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love the power of saying no, and the same. It's, I think when you say no, that opens up a lot more things and freedom, and you talk about choices. If we go to really like money and finances, what is for you financial empowerment, and how can women get there?
Financial empowerment, especially for women, and I don't want to like blanket and just say heterosexual women, so I'll say is to be able to stand on your feet financially without a partner. Mm-hmm. But in my brain, that's like without a husband. That's really, really important to me. Or even if, for whatever reason right now, you don't have the money in hand, you have the confidence in your ability. to be financially solo of a man or a partner. That's really important. I was raised primarily by my maternal grandparents, so my mother's parents. Shortly before I was born, my granddad got violently mugged and was left blind in one eye. So he was now deemed by the government as unfit for work. So he became a stay-at-home husband, and my nan went out and covered the mortgage. Granted, this is in the 80s, and they have a 3-bedroom house in Brixton Hill, and they bought it for £17,000. So, you know, I'm not saying my nan didn't work hard, but let's be really real. Anyway, she's leaving the house every day, bang on 4:45, and where my bedroom was, it overlooks the front path. And so every day I see her like totter off with these bags, and then every Friday there's this ottoman. My great-granddad used to be like a chippy. He used to make wood furniture, and there is an ottoman that she's had flown over from Barbados, and she'd sit on that ottoman every Friday and get the checkbook out and be like, okay, this is for the pensions. And like my nan was investing in stocks before I even knew that was a thing. And so I'd sit with her as she's like banging furiously on this calculator. And then cheekily calls my granddad up and is like, here's your money, love. Like, thanks for your services. And it, to me, as a child, that's just the norm. But now I'm an adult, looking back, that's so like rare to have seen a woman have that kind of financial power in her own household and ultimately control over her own destiny, because they divorced, and rightfully so, because I love my granddad as a dad, but to now be an adult and assess him as a husband, two very, very different people. And my nan took nothing lying down, and she was able to get out of that and now be more financially empowered than ever. And I know I've taken some of that into my own adult life. And for me, I talk about it all the time. I call it GVM, and my granddad used to call it your get vex money. Like, I'd be going out with my friends and he's like, do you have GVM? And I'd be like, no. And he'd be like, so where are you going? Because you cannot depend on a mate to get you a cab ride home. Like, if I didn't have GVM, the rule was I couldn't leave the house. And so now in my working life, I'm always like, where's the GVM? Yeah. Where is my exit? Where is, I don't like this, I want to go? You know, that's how I think now.
And can you talk a little bit about the journey, so seeing, you know, your nan and maybe your relationship with money and how that evolves over the years?
Oh my God, we do not have enough time for that. So I'm born into a middle-class, well-to-do household by way of my grandparents and my dad, who started a career in finance before he moved to law. But then when I'm about 7, 8 years old, I go and live with my mum, who, for all intents and purposes, not that great with money, and so that's what I'm seeing every day. And she marries a guy that is not quite nice. And so we later on find out that he has been taking loans on our home, on the family home. So by the time I'm like 13, we have to sell that home. We are now at the foot of the government, and I think we had 9 temporary houses in 18 months. So I'm not even unpacking at some point as a teen. And so you just got used to, like, I'd even hide school letters because I'm not trying to make anyone feel bad that they don't have money to send me on the trip, or I am just not eating enough at school. And I went to a school called the Brit School of Performing Arts, which, although it was a free school for kids who wanted to get into performing arts and media, it's a school where you don't have to wear your uniform. That is a problem. Let's just stop right there. Because in my head, I was like, yeah, so cool. Like, you know, I like to dress. Oh, style. No. All it does is it allows teens to judge other teens. Yeah. And so I'm feeling that pressure at school. And immediately, the second a credit card lands at my door we're going out, child. Yeah. Girl, let's do this. Oh, we are swiping. You know, like that character in Dora the Explorer? Ooh. I was like, backpack. Because I've never had access to what I thought was free money. Mm-hmm. And so bang out all these credit cards. looking back in retrospect, not going to uni was such a saving grace for me because I didn't have the idea of like student debt or student loans. In my eyes, I was a baby. I didn't know what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, so I wasn't going to make that kind of decision right then. But that did mean that I landed at the door of adulthood, because I don't agree that that is 18. I think you've got to be out in the world a bit, just riddled with debt. And I remember meeting my now husband, and I had a debt drawer where like the letters would come and I'd just be like, well, if I don't open it, it's not real. Like, what the hell? So like, I'd just kick this drawer closed, like, and all the letters would spiral out the back, and I was just like, oh, whatever. And I told myself this story that because of debt and how bad I was with money, I'm never going to own a home. So that was like something I used to say to Bode all the time. I was like, just get that out of your brain because it's never going to happen. And he was just not in agreement with that, which is interesting because he was just as broke as me. But what he wasn't broke in was confidence or spirit, whereas I was in the red in that. And so as the years started to chip away and I started to take some of his wealth in that way, I was able to be like, maybe you can. And the thing about my personality is, right, I'm going to say I can before I know I can. Like, I'm just going to be like, yeah, you can do that. Like, I love the way people send me pictures of brownstones because everyone knows that's my dream. And like, they send it to me with the confidence, like, girl, I ain't got the money right now, but I know I'm going there. And so once I started to switch into that mode, I was like, okay, and so what skills do you have that could amass that kind of money? You know, you just start walking it backwards in your brain. Long story short, I was working in publishing at the time as a marketing assistant, and I'd won a competition for that job. Penguin Random House had said, oh, publishing is too white and too stuffy, and we are looking for marketeers who don't have a uni degree. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to sign up for that. I think over 7,000 people applied, and there were 4 jobs, and I ended up getting one of the jobs. I'm not going to lie to you, though. At the final, I was the only black person in the room, so I just stopped trying at that point. I was like, the data suggests that you can't not pick me. I was good at my job, but, you know, I was just like, and there's another conversation to be had about black women having all the skills and still not applying to roles. Yeah. But maybe we can get to that later. And I was, you know, doing this marketing job, really low on the ladder, but didn't mind. I just wanted a foot in publishing. What happened, though, this was like 2014, 2015. All our ad money was being pulled away from bus stops and, like, magazines and being given to, like, Google. I was like, okay, so you want me to spend how much on a Google ad? Also, I spent the majority of my day on the phone to these people called bloggers. And I'm like calling up these bloggers like a cold call, like, how much would you charge to feature this book on your blog? And when they told me the fee, I said, no, I literally sat there and I just closed my eyes. I said, you are in the wrong job. And I was like, by hook or by crook, girl, you're going to get on the other side of this phone. Again, I never know how, but I just make the decision. And then one day, I do not advise this, guys, but I'm just being honest. One day, I just quit. Sometimes the dream gets too big. And I was like, I'm not doing this shit anymore. I was just like, I quit. There was more than that, though. I had postnatal depression. Esme was about 18 months old. You are, like, tearing away from your desk at 4:59 to make the 5:02 train, and you're dripping in sweat because you don't want the nursery to charge you £50 for every minute that you're late. Like, there was so much pressure building up in my head. And, you know, I come home, I quit, and I say to Bode, I quit. And he was like, to do what? I was like, to be a blogger.
And, look at you now.
I was so bold-faced with it. Guys, I did not get a paid job for 4 years. Yes, I heard someone say, what? Yes, it was very much that. Yeah, I didn't get a paid job for 4 years, and I remember my first job was with, like, Dove, doing this baby care brand. But in that time, what that taught me is to double down on what I knew to be true. I was like, I've seen with my own eyes where advertising is going. We're not putting the money in certain places anymore. We are giving it to people who we think have influence. I was like, I trust this so fully. Admittedly, it almost ruined my relationship. But like you said, look at us now.
I know. And I want to talk about manifesting and your next book. And I feel that, you know, with this conversation, that's where we're going. But your upcoming book, Manifesto, Unlock Your Life You Deserve, is due to release in September. And you talk about manifesting.
Yeah.
I know that can be so controversial.
It's so vomit, isn't it? It's like, bleh.
So
Yeah.
I want to know, how do you manifest? How does it work for you? And yeah, what can we learn about it?
How does it work for me? Number one, it's not quick and it's not easy. And the only reason I wrote Manifesto is because as someone who has really worked with manifesting and the tools and the practices for all of these years, is I struggle to see me in these teachers. And I use teachers very loosely because that's not what I proclaim to be. But it's like, sure, you can manifest if you have, I don't know, a billionaire art dealer boyfriend. Sure, you know what I mean? Sure, you can manifest if you're a monk with green eyes. I don't know. Sure. And this isn't to say,
credit cards,
you know, this
manifest.
isn't to say that these things don't work for them. I'm like, I want to talk about manifesting when you're coming from the dirt. When you're coming from the ropes, like where you don't even know what investing is, you haven't even been allowed to dream about your dream life because you don't have the space or time capacity. So that's where the idea for Manifesto came from. And for me, simply, manifesting is understanding, number one, the creativity and the dictatorship I have over my own life. That was really important for me to understand. Coming from where I come from, not just in a financial aspect, but definitely emotional and spiritual, I was always raised to think that things happen to me. Yeah. It's all happening to me. I can't happen to it. I just have to accept this place and space I've been given. So the first thing was for me to recognize that part and parcel to manifesting is understanding the creativity you have over your own life. Then the second hardest part, especially for a woman that looks like me, is training your brain to believe you're worth what you're asking for. A lot of the time, we think, oh, why is this thing not coming to fruition? Do you really think you're worth it? And let me tell you how sometimes you're going to be tested. So recently, a brand called my manager and was like, oh, you know, we just don't have the budget this year. We want the same deliverables from Candice, but for half the fee. Girl, you called the wrong number. You better hang up and try again. But the key to that in manifesting is believing in myself and in the abundance of resources so much that even if I'm nervous, I'm going to say no. Because to lower my fee in that capacity is to me then have to rethink my value or my worthiness. And that's just not up for discussion anymore. And I think a lot of us, we want to deal with the fluffy aspects of manifestation, but it is first and foremost always taking a risk and a bet on yourself. And it could be in starting a business, it could be in leaving a relationship that you know is no good for you. But the first few steps of manifestation are not going to feel good. I didn't have a natural birth, but I imagine it to be like the crowning of a baby through the vagina, like that ring of fire bit.
Yes.
Yeah, I did. Yes. I had a C-section, so I don't really know. But no one wants to feel that ring of fire or do all the hard, dirty work where you have to look at perhaps, and I hate to say it because I don't want to make anyone feel bad, you perhaps have to analyze how little you value yourself. Like, I'm sorry, guys, you know, I'm trying to raise the vibration, but I think that's the hardest part of manifesting is coming to understand that you valued yourself as so small for so long, and in order to call in whatever your version of a dream life is, first and foremost, we're going to have to work on filling up that tank. I'm sure that didn't answer the question.
No, but it's great. Actually, that makes me think of extreme ownership. That's a little bit how I see it. Is, you know, of course, defining your wealth and asking for what you're worth, but it's also not trying to find excuses, not really having expectations, but just, you know, for yourself, and you really trying to go to the next level. I wanted to ask you actually, how does money fit in manifestation, and how do you value yourself? Is money some sort of a validation for you?
Money fits into manifestation because 90% of the time it's a lack of money that brings us to manifestation. It's so rare. It's not that it doesn't happen, but it's so rare that someone really gets turned on to the idea of manifestation through love or lack of community or wanting better friendships. It's because you're dirt poor and you're struggling with your bills and you have a headache and you can't sleep and you have a debt drawer that you're kicking closed like me. So I recognize that people often come to manifestation because their financial life is on the ropes. Yeah. And I also leave space for the fact that if you've never had a thing for a long time, that's going to be the measuring stick you use against yourself. So for many years after finding a way to manifest and work for and harness and repattern my behaviors with money, that was how I absolutely were like, oh, I've made this much this month or this year. I'm this kind of person. Interestingly, and not in a cocky way at all, the more I start to understand the karmic relationship with money, the spiritual relationship with money, the less impressive it is to me. Yeah. Because in my mind, I can pick from that tree whenever I want. And so there has to be another measuring stick for me and other people. It can't just be, oh, I can make this amount of money or I'm worth this much. That's no longer how I measure it. And do you know what? It's showing up in my real life in a way that is driving me a bit insane. So I love watching vlogs on a Sunday. I primarily love watching fashion vlogs. I love watching the girlies unbox the new thing and be in Paris and woo! For the past couple of months, I just can't bear it. I'm like, yuck. And not yuck because, you know, especially as a black woman, black girl luxury is a thing we need to see, and I love that for them. But I'm just like yuck because it's no longer the thing that gets me going. Yeah. And that's only because I've worked on that area enough for it to not be at the forefront of my mind. I hate when people who have always had access to money or know how to call it into them, who say to people who've never had it, oh, you know, money's not everything. Shut up. Have you ever had an electric meter run out in the middle of the night? It kind of is everything. And I'm always like, let's give people the space to touch it, to acquire it, to swim in it, before we start trying to berate them with, oh, it's not. They'll learn that. I've learned that. But you couldn't tell a Candice who had to choose between the electric meter and Esme's nappies that it was literally everything. But the better you get at calling it into your life and believing in your power with it, it just falls further and further down the list of the ways you're going to measure yourself.
Thank you. Do you sometimes panic about money?
Do I sometimes panic about money? No, not anymore. I get butterflies. But in a good way, because even if it starts with nerves, I just do my breathing. I'm like, oh, girl, you're going to... Because honestly, this brownstone that I'm envisioning, I don't want no fixer-upper, you know. I'm not buying a house to knock down the wall. I'm not buying a house to fight with rats. I don't have it in my spirit. And so, on my phone, I have the Zillow app. You might not have heard of the Zillow app because Zillow is like the US version of house buying. So I've got the Zillow app on my phone, and I've got some alerts set up, and some of these brownstones pop up, and it's like $8 million, $10 million. And that's when the butterflies start. Because then I look at my accounts, and I'm like, well,
not there yet.
Not yet. And I allow those butterflies to sit there because on everything, the house I currently live in now used to give me butterflies. And the house before that used to give me butterflies. And the flat before that used to give me... It's like just going training in the gym and sometimes recognizing that the weights you're lifting are now too light. Yeah, and so these butterflies have to be there because my whole spirit knows, okay, we have to kick it up a notch. But the same way the house I literally live in now was on my 2021 vision board, and now I just walk around there as if it was custom fit for me, is the way I can already see 40-year-old Candice living in an $8 million brownstone, like it was custom fit for her, you know? And so, no, not panic. I would say, this is a weird thing to say, I get excited. Yeah. I get excited.
Yeah. So if you get excited, let's talk about what's the life that, I mean, are you excited by your life today? What's life tomorrow? We were talking earlier about people sort of, you know, redefining success.
Yeah.
They've been working really hard, making a lot of money. Everything looks amazing from the outside, and that's often the case when you look at, you know, entrepreneurs, influencers. You're like, wow, they have an amazing life.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's hardcore. So where are you on the journey and thinking about the long term?
I am in my very auntie era. And by that I mean, and this has always been the goal for me, I always say this, guys, if there's ever a day you type Candice Brathwaite into one of these apps and you can't find me, have a drink, because I've made it. The day I get to go black on socials, just do a little happy dance because your girl is at the top of heaven. Because that's the dream for me, to be able to curate a business that I don't have to be the face of anymore. To have my hands in so many pies where I don't feel I need to be front and center in order for this business to tick over. That's the dream. You know, I think it was 2020, we were coming into the year 2023. I don't know if you guys know a writer called Rachel Cargle. She had this great online meditation session that I signed up for, and she guided us on a light beam that went up into space. Of course, you're meditating, that's not real. And then she was like, oh, you know, you're now going to come back down to earth in the place, you know, a 40-year-old you desires. And I knew exactly where I was coming into. So I've come down to Brooklyn, I've knocked on this brownstone, and 40-year-old me has opened the door. And I'm literally shaking because I'm like, of course I recognize her, but she is so content. She is so locked in. She's very swishy. I didn't understand that bit. Like, the clothes were very White Company-ish, and I don't know about that part. And also, she was like a vegan, and I was like, I don't know about that either, because I love some swine, but anyway, anything can happen. And I was like, that's it. And she also, and I know this sounds like I'm going off piece, but it's really important to me. I was looking around the house, and she had an insane art collection. And that was so meaningful to me, because over the last few years, when I first started to make a bit of money, every year I'd buy myself a new gold bangle. I do love a gold bangle. And over the last few years, I've bought myself art pieces that I've always dreamt of. And so looking around her house, I was like, even the things you see as valuable have completely changed, you know? And so for me, it's about that contentment. And it's about not feeling swayed by what I see other people doing. We were saying it backstage. I was like, every day I'm like, oh, should I have a business? Oh, should I make an app?
Let's raise a lot of money.
Yeah.
Wow,
oh, I want some VC funding, juicy. And then I sit down, I'm like, oh, you don't want none of that. It's just because you see your peers doing that you think you want that. And it's like, that comes with its own margin of stressors, that if that's not your deepest rooted desire, you should really be minding your business. So future me, I think she's most wealthy because her head's not constantly on swivel, being like, oh, should I do that? No, she's very clear and down the line.
You have a plan.
It's loosey-goosey.
Loosey-goosey. It's reviewing regularly, my plan. How do you look at then maybe spending, and we had this conversation about consumerism, and especially as you spend a lot of time on social media, you were talking about, you know, seeing brands and wanting to buy stuff from these brands.
Yeah.
You have kids. Kids are very demanding. They always want the new thing.
Yes.
Have your relationship with like spending changed a little bit over the years?
Absolutely. It's gone from like these obsessive, I don't know, high street hauls to then thinking everything I owned had to be designer, to now being quite a slow spender. To be honest, I'm still in a place where I'm perhaps going to spend more money on an item, but it's because I feel like it's going to make me value it more. Even my clothes, some of my clothes, when I'm going through my wardrobe that are too big, if I think it's an investment piece, oh, we're going to find a way to make this work. Whereas if I've just bought this quickly from Primark, I'm going to send it back out into that terrible ecosystem. And so the way, oh, absolutely, I thought, because we were having this conversation backstage, so I'm very open about this. My children go to a fee-paying school. Let me give you the gist about fee-paying schools, right? When you come from money, okay, you make your child raid that lost property bin. You know that old people white money where it's great granddaddy's investment paying for the schooling? Them kids are in that lost property bin. Me coming from new money, does the blazer fit just right? Do you need 3 blazers? Maybe 10 pairs of trousers. 55 hockey sticks should do it. Because in somewhere in my mind, I'm like, I don't want it to be obvious that I feel as though my child doesn't fit in here, or I don't fit in here, and this is all very new to me. As the years have gone on, I've sent Esme to that lost property bin. I said, girl, don't stress me about another blazer. Go and dig in that bin and try one on for size. I'm not doing this anymore. And so the way I spend is now coming into alignment with, again, the way I value myself outside of money. I don't always need a quick fix, and I definitely don't need to be wearing Prada for you to value me. To a point now that actually when I go to certain designer stores, I take everything off. Watch, bracelet, everything. Because I'm trying to get a measure on your customer service when I'm not rocking the labels. Like, are you being kind to me because you think I'm good for it, or are you being kind because you're kind? Also, I've had to do a deep dive on the Black community's relationship with labels. It's not just us, but I can only speak about us because that's where I'm from. And I came from a place where a man will put a Rolex on his wrist before getting out of a council flat. And I really had to think about what had been done to the psyche of Black people to make us think we had to show up in that way before working on certain things. And it was a conversation I actually had with my granddad where my granddad will wear a 3-piece suit to go to the coffee shop. Granddad, why are you doing that? Oh, because when I came here, the only edge I had was dressing well. They would say no Blacks, no dogs, no Irish, and they'd throw around the N-word, but I could get the job if I was decked out. And so I'm not highlighting it to make us feel bad, but I think it is time to have a discussion in my community about how sometimes a lot of the procurement of these labels is for protection, to be seen in a certain way so we can at least get our foot in the door. Or, taking a loan out to get a certain suit for an interview where your white counterpart has come looking like they've just come from Glastonbury. So it's all of that I'm having to work through, but also not berate myself for or chastise myself for, and just know that it's all part and parcel. And also to recognize that the work is being done, because I tell you, Esme's tight-fisted. Esme ain't spending 50p. She's like, we can get that cheaper. I'm like, you know what? Even if I'm struggling with certain things, she's being put in a place where the mindset that she is creating is something that I could only dream about at 10 years old. Now, that's real wealth.
That's real wealth. Thank you, Candice. I'd love to take questions, but I have one final question for you.
Yeah.
You've mentioned the importance of being financially well enough to give back.
Yes.
So when are you ready to give back time, money to your communities, to causes you care about?
Oh my gosh, all the time. And I've never spoken about this because if you're doing it, you should just do it. But I remember a couple of years ago, I got quite a bit of money. I got like quite a big brand check, and a woman whom I've never met, ever met in real life, but I feel as though she's one of my best friends. She's severely disabled, so she can only leave her bed for 1 hour a day. She has, I think it's called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It's really bad. I knew her and her husband needed a certain amount of money to pay off their mortgage. And Bode and I sent it. And it doesn't even need a clap. It doesn't, but I don't stand in the comments too much, but I know some of us might, get drunk and want to troll someone and be like, well, you just get gifted things. What the F are you doing for? You don't know. You don't know, because in the same breath, if I was so vocal with my giving, you say that I'm doing it for attention. It just doesn't need to be that way. Also, I now feel so good about money that giving is something I do for shits and gigs sometimes. I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm good for it, have it. Or if it's not even that, it's like my best friend, me encouraging her to move from Birmingham to Milton Keynes so we can split childcare with her. Like, it's about building a community. Sometimes it's not even always about money. It's about freeing up the resources with good management, good agents, good publishers, like seeing that someone's in need or maybe is not being managed or directed well, and I know that I've got a powerful little black book. Or maybe if I send this email connecting this person, it's going to push them further. Like, I'm a Pisces. Sometimes I'm going to give to my detriment. And Bode's a Pisces too, so we need to be checked by someone. And it's usually Esme. But yeah, that's just always going to be something I do. And somewhere down the road, I would love to be able to develop like the kind of scholarship pattern that Stormzy developed. Like, I'd love to just send 10 black kids to Oxford, because why not?
That's really cool. Thanks, Candice.
Thanks.
Any questions? Yes.
Hello, thank you so much for this conversation. Really, really loved it. A lot of women today have spoken about understanding your value and making sure you know your paid your worth. Now, I'm self-employed and so are some of my friends here. How do you balance knowing your worth, because I think a lot of us know our worth, but balancing the fact that you want to accept a deal, you want to work with someone, but you don't want to say no because that might be your only check for the whole year. How do you balance knowing your value and then also being too scared to take that risk?
Oh, I'm the worst person to ask this question because I've always just taken the risk, and I've always believed that if you value me, you'll circle the block. I saw something the other day. I don't want to take recognition for it. I saw something that said, "People know your worth. They're just hoping you don't." They're kind of trying to cut a deal. Every good business is trying to cut a deal. And I'll be really frank, in the early days of my management, when I had management for the first 6 years, my management team were all white, and I did that on purpose. Because I'd started to get a read of the room, and I noticed that those of us with black management and white management, there was a disparity in what a brand was saying they could pay us. Those white faces were getting a couple of extra zeros. And so that has given me the time to read the room and gain some notoriety and respect in my own name. And so now I'm more comfortable taking the risk. You have to just double down on yourself. We all have bills to pay. So again, don't chastise yourself if you've got to keep the lights on. No big bad man's gonna come out the closet and like jump at you for doing that. But also it's like learning to offer up a fee that gives you butterflies. Stop typing in a fee that don't make you feel anything. One day I just want you to get drunk and mad and type anything in the response email. Because what that has taught me is they usually meet me halfway to that, which was more than what I was going to charge anyway. Like sometimes, or just hit them with a "what's your budget" and let your mind be blown. Don't always be like lifting up your skirt and showing them your brief. Nah, sometimes just be calm and be like, let me see what you're working with. But like I said, that's something that you're gonna have to do in like drips and drabs. Don't feel like you need to commit to that bang on. And I promise you, a brand that actually desires you and your creativity, they always circle the block. They always come back. I've had a brand where I've said, this is the budget, and they've said, we don't have that budget, but a year later they have it, and they return. But you have to remember that no one else has your feet, so no one else is going to stand 10 toes down for yourself. Only you can do that.
I'm taking notes, Candice. I'm taking notes. Maybe 2 more questions?
Hi, that was amazing. Thank you, Candice. I was thinking about you, like, at the start when you quit your job and you were, like, in waiting, you know, until the woman that you are today. And I guess for us, or myself anyway, as, like, I feel like I'm in waiting in some ways for the woman I want to become. Like, what are the influences and things that you think are so important to focus on, like, around you in that time?
Oh my gosh, it's like being in training. Like, you're not just gonna wake up and be her. You'll be astounded that when you are her, you won't even recognize it. It's everyone around you that's gonna be like, oh my gosh, you inspire me. You're not even, so your sole job is to stay in the gym. What was that rap song when someone said, you wasn't with me shooting in the gym? It's that part. It's like, you have to think about this future you that you know you're destined to be. Where does she drink coffee? Where does she shop for clothes? Now, I'm going to need you to really go deep on these things. What books does she read? And I don't want to hear but I'm not there yet. We're in practice mode. It's like playing dress up. Remember, you know, in nursery where you had the little dress up? Well, it's like playing dress up. So on your next payday, you're going to go to the place she goes for coffee. On your next payday, you're going to buy one item from the shop that she shops at. It's about preparing yourself to meet the version of you that you know already exists. You don't just need to like have slovenly days in bed, waiting for her to knock at the door. All of this is like taking your body, your mind, and your soul to the gym. This is who I desire to be. What does she do? Even if I can't live in that house right now, I can walk past it every day. I can put it into my walk routine so I can get a little zing or a little spring in my step when I see. Like, you actually have to start. And trust me, girl, I was living like that. I was to the detriment of some credit cards. Do not do that. But I was very much like, this is who I desire to be. And I'm constantly going to take these small, bite-sized chunks of risk to some people, but they were actually joy to me. Like, I knew that the version of woman I wanted to be now didn't live in London. I knew that. And so we left, you know, tiny step, we left London and we rented this house, and just tiny strokes of joy. But again, don't just commit to bed thinking that one day you're just going to wake up and magically become her. There are training steps to becoming her. And why those steps are so important is because I say this all the time. I'll say women now, many women can acquire, few can maintain. You can get a thing, can you keep a thing? You can get those abs, can you keep them? You can get that goal weight, can you keep it? So when you finally arrive at Dream you want to look back at your training log and know you can keep her. Because every day I've been in the gym anyway. Hi.
Hi, Crystal here. Hello, hello. Amazing hearing you speak, and I'm sure all of us are like, what? Really loving it. My question is around, you spoke about your money journey. I would like to touch on something around your social, your people around you, and how they influence that journey. And relating it, just personal experience, as I've progressed in my career and what I'm doing, I'm losing friends. So kind of it would be great to hear from you about your journey of losing friends, gaining friends who match this person you're becoming. I see you getting excited. I love it. Yeah.
Girl, everybody had to go. No. At one point, my nickname in the house was Henry VIII. Because heads were getting chopped off left, right, and center. And I didn't feel good about it, But what I knew is that where I was going, they either couldn't come or they were going to prevent me from meeting the best me, because not everyone is going to be in alignment with this new mindset, because the mindset is going to kick in before you see any physical manifestation of the way you've been thinking and working. And even the mindset was cheesing people off. Like, well, I know you're struggling just like me. Why are you so happy? And I'm like, well, because in my mind, we're 2 years in and I'm not struggling anymore. And I've decided to make your... Again, I don't like these parts, but they are the honest to God's truth. You know, sad times love company, negativity loves company. And I don't want to use a word like rise, because you're never ever looking down on anyone, but in your personal trajectory to being the best you, there are going to be people that liked you thinking low of yourself, because they could gain a lot from that. They could manipulate you in ways that you're not even going to be able to start thinking about until you're on the other side of this journey. So you have to understand that a lot of the times people are trying to keep you in the trenches because it benefits them. If you're really a rider, I'm going to want you to not only be inspired by my journey, but I'm going to want you to get out of the trenches with me. And that gets pretty thin on the ground, especially, and I hate to say it, but I'll use my privilege as a black woman because they're few and far between, especially in the black community, especially in the black British spaces. We have such a crabs in a barrel mentality because we have been told that there is only one space, or even if there is that one space, you need to share it with someone who is more all of the other things in order to compensate. And that ricochets into our personal lives. And I'll be honest in saying, some of the toughest issues up ahead aren't even with your friends, they're with your family. And I know you don't want to say it, because I never want to say it. But that's the toughest pill to swallow, because you're looking at these people like, you've known me all my life. Don't you want better for me? No, you getting better for you brings up an acknowledgement in them that they don't think they're worthy of better for themselves. And I had to make the decision that future me was more valuable than sitting with them in the now. And this isn't to say that this isn't going to be painful and you know, this is going to be something you're going to have to work through. But like I said right at the beginning of this conversation, I think we'll be shocked when we really want to get deep down with ourselves how little we value ourselves. And how much we are willing to put up with shit for the idea, for the idea of love, for the idea of support. Love and support don't move like that. They're cheerleading with you from the beginning to the end, but the idea of like, oh, these people like me because I'm like them, it's never worth it. And it will get a little bit stickier before it gets easier, because now I'm in the habit of just preying nonsense before it even hits the Ring doorbell. But also, the people you are making space for in your life, don't underestimate that. And don't just be inviting anyone to the party because you want the pictures to look full. Allow the pictures to look empty for now. Soon enough, that every seat at your imaginary table is going to be filled with the people that are going to love you and appreciate and cheerlead you in a way that you deserve, not as a placeholder.
One more question.
Hello, guys. So for me, the way I'm viewing finances at the moment is looking at the woman I want to be at 30. I have a vision for the woman I want to be at 40, 50, etc. And I'm currently in a position where I can help out a lot of my family. In certain spaces, I make more than other people in my family. So sometimes I find there's a lot of noise. So where I might have this selfish outlook on what I am going to be at 40 and this vision I have where I'm going to live, etc., there is noise of this is what you should be doing, this is how much you should be saving, maybe you should be looking at a mortgage, a house, etc. My question to you is, how do I cancel the noise but still be selfish?
How do you cancel the noise and still? That's an interesting question. Number one, we don't do anything We have to move with integrity, so we do nothing under pressure. We don't even give to family members under pressure. That's going to keep you up at night. And I can appreciate that maybe you're the one in your circle right now who's doing better than others, but we can't get into the habit of giving out the fish. We have to teach people how to fish. I was doing a lot of fish giving. I came like, was it John the Baptist? I don't know who gave out the fish, girl, but I was giving out the fish. And I said, and more to the point, when I then questioned people like, would you like to get a rod? And, you know, I will show you how to hook and bait and do. No one wanted to pick up a rod. And so now I'm in the habit of helping people who give me the air or have the receipts of being about helping themselves. That's really, really important, because if you just continue to dole out fish, they think they're forever going to be good for it. So even when it comes to family, I want you to process that. And the noise... It seems like you're doing really well at cancelling it out. Do you want to be selfish? Do you enjoy... You want to be selfish? Then lean into that. And I would say you wanting to be selfish, because you don't have to tell me all your business, girl, but you wanting to be selfish is coming from a place of you knowing that that fish giving is being abused. Okay? And so the boundaries have gone up. What I don't want you to do, and this is rich coming from me because I'm very good at it, don't harden your heart too much, because sometimes that allows blind spots to develop, and then we are missing the people that do genuinely need our help. But yes, enjoy putting yourself first. Enjoy making financial decisions that are in alignment with what you desire, because you've worked hard to do so. And just continue to cancel out the noise. Don't watch social media. Get out of your family WhatsApp chats. How about that? Don't be taking just shot calls from aunties in Africa somewhere who want to tell you that you're not a good child for... Yes, girl, roll your eyes, because I know the story. That you're not a good child because you're not building someone's yard back home. What's that got to do with me? Because don't get me started on the sending money back home lark. I've not even patterned a home here. And now you think because I'm a little bit good for it, I've got to build someone else's house back home. Just stay away from all of that. It will mean, though, you are regarded as, quote unquote, the black sheep. I promise you there is no skincare routine that can match being the black sheep. You sleep goody, you sleep good. Because no one is phoning up your line with their nonsense, and you're not there over-giving yourself to situations because you want to be regarded as the nice one, or the fixer, or the firstborn daughter that's going to save it all. Absolutely not. You're doing great.
Candice, thank you so much.
No, thanks for having me.
It's such a pleasure to have you on stage. You know, your book is coming out next year, but you're also going to be signing books.
Yeah, I'm going to sign books now.
Chatting with people. So if you want to see Candice, please come along. Thank you so much for being so generous with us today and spending the afternoon.
No, it's been great.
And being so open and honest about money. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Candice.
Guys.